to my channel. I am Bekah Jo, aka the Makeup Tax Lady, and we have a fun little video today. I have received several purchases that I've made over the last couple of months. There were a couple pre-orders in here, and in total I have 7 new palettes from 3 different indie brands. You will recognize the names probably of all of these brands. So in today's video, I just want to talk you through the palettes that I picked up. We'll do swatches and a look with one of these palettes, and then I plan to do more content with all of the rest of them. Would love to hear your priority list of what order you'd like to see these palettes, and then what type of videos do you like to see? Do you prefer shorts? Do you prefer long form videos? Some combination. I like to do them all, but it's definitely easier for me to be filming like a short Instagram reel or YouTube short, but I do enjoy compiling multiple looks with one palette. So please let me know, do you like an in-depth review? None of these palettes, well, with the exception of one, none of these palettes are really new. So please let me know, do you like reviews? Do you just like look inspirations? I'd love to hear your thoughts. A couple of housekeeping items. First of all, I'm filming in a little bit different location. This is just a different angle in the same room. I will do the best that I can in editing to make sure that even though the lighting is different, that all the colors remain true. Second housekeeping item, I have several cats in my room with me right now. I have several cats in my home, and those that are in the room with me are, of course, seeing what kind of trouble they can get into. So I will do my best to keep them from interrupting the video, even though cat interruptions are sometimes fun. But hopefully they don't get into anything stupid or dangerous. Okay, let's get into these palettes. And if you haven't already, you will be seeing sprinkled in through, again, YouTube Shorts and Instagram Reels, unboxing of these palettes. Feel free to check those out if you enjoy unboxing videos. But let's go in the order of the purchases that I unboxed. So we will start with Sydney Grace. So Sydney Grace did their Christmas in July sale, and they did it at the early part of July this year. Typically they do it at the very end of July, so they switched it up. I made 2 purchases. The first one I have already unboxed. I did not get a chance to pick up a mystery box this year. The one that stood out to me the most, I think it was the black box, but it was of cream shadows, and that one sold out before I was able to pick it up. But that's okay. If they happen to restock that mystery box, I may pick it up later in the year. I love their mystery boxes and I love their cream products, but I made one purchase where I got a variety of things, a cream shadow, eyebrow gel, and a handful of other things that were on sale that day. But I also picked up 4 palettes on the day that their palettes were, I think, 40% off. It was a great deal. So it was after the day that their new palettes had released. And if you remember, that first day was the Cozy Cafe release. And I did not grab it quickly enough the day that it launched, which is fine. But I picked it up on the day when palettes were 40% off, so that I got the pre-ordered palette at 40% off. And they still had the pre-order ready to go before the end of the month. I generally avoid pre-orders, even though between this purchase and one of my other purchases I had pre-orders, and the fact that Sydney Grace got their pre-order together and out so quickly made me so happy. So I picked up the light version of this palette. I really feel like this palette is an extension of the Coffee Talk palette, which was one that they had a few years ago. They had it in light and deep version as well, and it was a 9-pan palette. I have that palette in the light version, and I absolutely love it. I think it's so pretty, it's so fun, it's so classic. It's really a good classic palette. So they don't have the Coffee Talk palette anymore, but they have the Cozy Cafe palette, and I think that this combination of shades is so pretty. We have neutral, warm leaning shades, and then we have our slightly cooler tone shades, and then here in the middle we've got a fun little pink, raspberry kind of colors, and none of the pink shades are really too deep. The deepest shade in the pink column, pink row, if you will, is really a good neutral brown shade. So I think that this color story, although we kind of have 3 separate rows, the way that they're laid out, the way that the shades actually work, you can cross the rows. I feel like sometimes with palettes, when the color stories are made distinctive, it's harder to pair the different color stories. If there's multiple color stories within a palette, it can be hard to pair them into a look crossing the different color stories. But I think because this, and maybe it's because they're so good neutrals that we can cross categories, but I think this is going to be so much fun, and I'm really glad to have this in my collection. Plus that palette artwork is just so cute. Also in my Sydney Grace order, I picked up the Blessed palette. This is a collaboration palette with Sydney Grace and Glitzy Fritzy, and I don't know why it took me so long to pick this up. They collaborated on this a couple years ago. The palette is so smart. Like, it's just really smart. We've got our matte shades over here. I think Pop Nangi, if that's how we say that, is a slightly shimmery shadow. This is also a matte. So between these 6 mattes, you can start your look and ground your look in any direction. We've got cool tones. We've got a little bit of a pink over here. We've got an orange. We can do a deeper gray, smoky, or we can do a more warm brown. And then of course a solid, so sorry, cat interruption. The shade up here in the corner is just a good taupe. Easy, it'll go with anything. You can use this shade or one of these crease shades in a shimmer or two. You can use one of these as a liner. You can use these as deepening up shades. You have such a good basic starting point for this palette with the mattes that we have in here. So with this palette, we have great neutrals or nearly neutrals that we can use to ground the look. And then we've got a fun variety of shimmer shades. We've got a classic kind of silver taupey shade. We've got a classic like pink mauve that Sydney Grace does so beautifully well. Another like good champagne shade. Pops of color. We've got a more subtle green, a more bold and deeper green, a fun purple, and I think this is kind of a duochrome, or this beautiful aqua in the corner. So we can keep things really simple, or we can make them a little bit more colorful, and I think that this palette is so smart, and I don't know why it took me so long to pick it up. The third palette that I picked up from Sydney Grace was the Mountain Trail palette. I don't believe this comes in a light or deep, so this is just the single option. This palette has been out for a couple of years, and I think the color story, A, is really pretty. B is definitely gold for my preferences. So I haven't picked it up previously just because I didn't jive with the color story all that much, personally. Again, it's a pretty combination of colors, but not necessarily something that I'm reaching for. However, I chose to pick it up because they had it on clearance. I think it was $10 before whatever discount for that day. And I kind of have a BYOP in mind. So I picked this up with the idea that I can swap out some of the shades in here. I have a beautiful collection of single shadows from Sydney Grace and other brands and put some other things in. So stay tuned. I'm planning to do a BYOP that's going to start kind of with this Mountain Trail framework and build from there. The fourth palette that I got in my Sydney Grace order was an empty magnetic palette. I'll post a picture here on the screen. It is just a classic, so it doesn't have its own shades in it. I don't have it in front of me to show you right now, but it is great, and I just needed a little bit more room to house my single shadows so that it was easier to make my own BYOPs. So those are the 4 things that I picked up in my Sydney Grace Christmas in July, the second order that I made. The next order that I have unboxed had 2 palettes in it, and this is from a new to me brand. I picked up 2 palettes from Kryptein Cosmetics. I have been hearing so much about them. I've been watching Smithy Sony, and she really loves Kryptein Cosmetics and talks highly of the brand. So they were doing a sale mid-July, I think it was. And I don't remember all the facts about the sale, but there was a little bit of a discount. And then if you purchased over $100, it was free shipping US. And so I decided to pick up 2 palettes that got me over the $100 threshold, but I still had a discounted price on these. And my hesitation previously for having purchased any Kryptein palettes is because with each of them, there was something not quite perfect about the color story. So in trying a new brand, I was just hesitant. Like, there was something I couldn't quite grasp with the color story. They were having a sale. I decided to go ahead and pick them up. And I believe all of these shades are magnetic, so I can swap out where I think maybe a color story may be lacking, and also get to know the formulas, decide if I want to continue investing in the brand. So naturally, I picked up their newest release. This is Sunset Symphony. This is so colorful. This is so beautiful. I have swatched a couple of the shades on my hand, but haven't put anything on my eyes just yet. I think that these shimmers in here are so, so pretty. The one primary qualm that I have with the color story of this palette is these three shades, and I realize that those are very summery, and I don't have a problem with summery shades, but I think that we could have done without one of them, probably the one here in the middle, and I would have liked something more to go with the pink. Like, here we kind of have a quad, and then here we kind of have a quad, here we kind of have a quad, but with this shimmers, there's enough variety that I feel like the shimmers can cross categories a little bit, kind of like what I was talking about earlier. But with this pink matte, I don't know that there's a whole lot else to go with the pink matte. And I like pink, so it's not like I want to avoid using that matte shade. So I'll probably be switching out this shade at some point with something else. Partly to complement this palette, but also because the Sunset Symphony is so colorful, I wanted my second palette to be something that could maybe cross seasons a little bit more and be less distinctively summery. I don't care what season it is, but I am inspired by the seasons. So I picked up the Violet Crazy palette. If you ever watch Smithy Sony, she loves purple eyeshadow and she talks so highly about this palette. I also love purple eyeshadow, so I decided to pick up this palette. I have swatched a couple of the shimmers Again, this one is like glowy. I'm so excited to use that. I think that'll be a very pretty highlighter on the cheeks as well. This palette, again, you could kind of stick to quads, but I don't feel like anything is so distinct that you can't cross color categories here. I do wish, because these three, from my angle right now, these three are very champagne together, and I like a champagne shade. It's not that I don't, but I don't know. I think once I swatch it out, maybe I'll feel a little bit better, but I do think that the color story in this one's really pretty. The packaging on these is really pretty. I mean, you can see how reflective the outside is. I think it's a faux leather. And then they've got like an imprinted Kryptein Cosmetics here. They have a little bit of weight to them. The inside of the palette, the inside of the mirror, I don't know if I can show you very well, says Violet Crazy here. So that's how you know which palette it is based on the outside color. But the outside of the palette doesn't say the palette name on it anywhere. So the inside of the palette, this material here is kind of like a cardboard, and it's not like gritty in texture, but it is like different. Like the Sydney Grace palettes are like smooth on the inside. Maybe there's like a layer or something over those. It's not that they're cheap. I don't know about that palette texture. Just a note. Okay, the last order that I have to talk about today is Glaminatrix Cosmetics, and I pre-ordered the Tones of Turd palette on the second pre-order. I didn't pick it up again quickly enough to get on the first pre-order. That's okay. So I got in on the second pre-order, and I don't enjoy pre-orders. I don't like ordering something in June, and I think it was early June when I ordered this, and it showed up in early August, and that is what I signed up for when I made the purchase. I made an exception, just kind of how it goes. When I made the order, I purchased 3 palettes. I purchased the Tones of Turd palette that we'll look at more closely here in just a minute. I purchased the Elevated Eyes palette, which is the small 6-pan blue palette. And I purchased another one, their green palette, because at the time it was in stock. I'll post a picture of that green palette on the screen so you know which one I'm talking about. They're all named very similarly. So anyway, in the time that passed between when I purchased it and when everything got shipped out, that green palette went out of stock. I assumed that because I had included it in my order that I was going to get it. However, the package crossed into the States, went through customs and everything, and then I wasn't getting like super updates, but as it was making its way to me within the States, I got a refund from the brand for the third palette. So I am grateful that they initiated that refund. I would have been very concerned if I had opened my palette, if I had opened my box and the third palette was missing, but I am bummed because I was really looking forward to that green one. Now, because I have the Tones of Turd palette, maybe I didn't need it, the green 6-pan palette, but regardless, I thought I was getting it and I was really excited to have it, but here we are. Let's first just take a really quick look at the Elevated Eyes palette. These are the smaller pans from Glaminatrix, and this is a cute little palette. It is colorful, so it may not be something that's like an everyday palette, but that's okay. I think it's really pretty. And of the 4 6-pan palettes that they had, the blue and the green ones were the ones I was most excited by. I am a little bit bummed that I didn't get a chance to pick up the green one or either of the other two, even though the other two just didn't excite me as much, but at least I have the blue one. And hopefully you'll be able to see the shimmer shade here in the middle has a little bit of a green reflect to it. So I think these shifty shades will be fun. I believe, and I'm making assumptions here in this comment, but I believe that these are going to be more similar to the formulas that are in their more recent palettes, including Timeless Tones, Barely Basic, and like their Nearly Natural palette. Also, can we just acknowledge that Glaminatrix is doing like their theming includes like the alliteration. I think that's what it is. So like Nearly Natural, Elevated Eyes, Barely Basic, Timeless Tones, Tones of Turd. Of course, the equivalent to Tones of Turd, the Grounded palette and the Bonfire palette don't fit into that, but I just think that's fun that they're kind of keeping with this theme. I really like it. Also, in my mind, so I didn't pick up the Timeless Tones palette. I think that palette is really pretty and I've gone back and forth on it. I may change my mind yet again before time is up, but I don't think that these are the same blues, but I think having these blues kind of helps settle the need for Timeless Tones for me, at least at the moment. If I had Timeless Tones palette, I would most often be reaching for, I think, the greens and the blues in that palette. I think that the other shades are really pretty. They're neutral. So I would like the kind of pop of color. So having this blue palette settles that for me for now. Okay, Tones of Turd. Hopefully you can see on the packaging here, we've got like the little emoji shaped turds. I am not one who necessarily goes for like poop humor, but I can appreciate it. And I purchased this palette because for me, this is a moment in indie makeup history. Does it mean anything to people who aren't like us and don't appreciate indie makeup? Probably not. Would people get a good chuckle out of it? Yeah, probably. But it's just kind of one of those, like, I hope that in a few years, I'll be able to look back and think, oh yeah, that was fun. Tones of Turd, I like that. So anyway, I'm sure you've seen the color story by now. I think this is a really fun fall color story. Is it a Bekah Joe color story? I don't know about that, but I do think that this can be a lot of fun and I'm really looking forward to having fun with it and getting to know the palette. I've heard other folks on YouTube who have already been playing with this palette or the Grounded palette mentioning that this, first of all, the pans are back to like a normal, I think it's 26mm size, like a traditional indie makeup eyeshadow size. But I have heard that this is more like the Glaminatrix that we know and love. Not that the Barely Basic, Timeless Tones, Nearly Natural aren't, but that this is maybe more the formulas for indie makeup lovers. And while I am far from perfect in any makeup application, that excites me. Like, I like the thrill and the challenge maybe of a more complex formula. So anyway, I'm excited for this. This one is very possibly one that's going to get multiple looks because it's definitely newer and newer to the market, newer to everybody that has it. And also, I don't know that there were many folks that were able to play with it before the pre-orders started. So you kind of had to buy it and then hear people talk about it. At least that's how I chose to do it. So yeah, this one I think will be a lot of fun as well, but I don't think that this is the one I want to reach for today. Let me put on some eyeshadow primer and decide which palette I want to pick up today. I have decided that because it is starting to, looks like it's about to storm outside, I need to fight that with some bright colors. So I want to dip into the Kryptein Sunset Symphony palette. And I think I want to definitely wear the shade Breeze. And then, okay, I think I think I know what shade I'm going to use next. So this is the Violet Crazy. This is Sunset Symphony. I think I want to start with Breeze. And then I think I want to go in with Faded and or Midnight for like the outer corner. And then probably pick up one, or I don't know. I want to use all of the shimmers. They look like so much fun. So let's start with Breeze. I'm going to start by putting Breeze in my crease. I don't want this to be a super heavy application, so I'm starting with my Refer 01 and just blending this through the crease very lightly. Okay, that went on very nicely with, like I said, a light wash. I am happy with that. So next, with this Moda Pro BMX 420 detail brush, I'm going to dip into the shade Fated, which is our lighter purple shade from the Violet Crazy palette. And I'm going to add this to the outer portion of my eye. I want to pack it on a little bit more than just the light wash that we did with Breeze. I wiped off my Refer 01 brush and now I'm just kind of blending those two together. So far, everything is looking really nice. Neither of these mattes are super deep, so it's not like I had great risk at things not blending, but things are blending well. With this small Give Me Glow brush, I'm gonna dip up, pick up our deeper blue matte in Seahorse and run this on the lower lash line and kind of smudge it out a bit. I think I want to dip into Violet Crazy and into this beautiful shade, The One. Oh, I did say I was going to do swatches with the palette I used today. We'll do swatches with both of them after we finish up the eye look. Here's the shade, The One. Ooh, that's so pretty. Okay, I'm going to just place this, no glitter glue or anything on my lid. That is so pretty. Oh, I love that. I love that type of shade where it's green with a pink reflect. And I don't know if you can see it there too, but it has kind of a gold champagne reflect on the other side. That's so pretty. And it's very smooth. It's a very refined sparkle, which we know that I love to see. Taking my Refer brush once again, very lightly through the crease. And I'm going to go back to my Give Me Glow brush and pick up the shade Wave. This is so shifty from my end. So I'm going to add this to the lower lash line. Okay, this is so fun and I'm loving these colors, loving these shimmers, loving the way that the mattes are blending. I am going to go put on mascara and I think the rest of my makeup, which has been on for a while today, by the way. I think that the rest of it's good to go, but I'll do any touch-ups if I need to, and I'll be right back so we can do swatches. Okay, here we are. Welcome back. This is the first look, my first time using Kryptein Cosmetics, combining the Violet Crazy palette with the Sunset Symphony palette. Just quick to finish off my eyes on the lower waterline, I used Power Trip Multi-Chrome Liner from ColourPop. My mascara is Sigma Sinuosity Lash Mascara. On my lips, I was previously wearing ColourPop Fresh Kiss Glossy Lip Stain in the shade Ice Pop. And then I just added just a little bit of my Sydney Grace Lip Topper in the shade Alice. This is one that I just picked up in the Christmas in July sale, part of the first purchase that I had made. I didn't do anything else to touch up anything else on my face, so here we are. I am very delighted with how this look came together. I think that both the mattes and the shimmers performed nicely. The mattes that I used, except for the one on the lower lash line, were definitely lighter in depth, so less likely to go wrong on my own complexion, but I feel like they blended very nicely as a nice little wash of color, which I enjoy. And the shimmers, I just used the two, but they have a lot of beautiful sparkles to them, and I think the shift in them is so pretty. The one on my lids, I can't get enough of it. I love it. So I really like the way that this look came together, the way that the formulas played. Now let's just do swatches of both of these palettes, and I have the Violet Crazy right here, so let's start with this one. I'm gonna go in groups of 3 and picking them up, and let's do top to bottom. That feels like a fun way to swatch this palette. So we'll start with Affectionate, The One, and Fairy Tale. Here we are with those 3 shades. The one in the middle, of course, being what we used on the lids today. Here are those 3 shades swatched out on my wrist. I did build up Affectionate a couple times because it's not that far off from my skin tone, but I wanted to make sure that it shows up on my wrist. Those are so pretty. Next we have Heartbeat, Fated, and Blossom. there are those 3 shades added to my arm. I did not build up the mattes this time, just so you could see. I think they're definitely going to be more buildable formula. Our purple shimmer is deeper for sure, has a deep base to it. Really pretty purple shade though. And it has a lot of like variety of sparkles in it too. Lots of different colors of sparkles. Next, we're going to swatch Fallen Star, Midnight, and Silence. You guys deserve better swatches. I'm sorry. I am trying. Okay, here are those 3 shades. So this shimmer shade, Fallen Star, it's not like a super yellow gold, but it does almost have some green in it. It's pretty. It's really pretty. And then of course the shade over here on the end, our matte shade Silence. I did build that up a couple times because that's very much a skin tone shade for Bekah Joe. Last but not least, let's grab Violet Crazy, Time Machine, and Eternal. Time Machine, the one in the middle here, is a little bit chunky. It picked up kind of chunky in the pan, so I wiped off my finger on the side of the pan to try to scrape off the excess product. So here is all the swatches of Violet Crazy. That metallic champagne shade Time Machine is definitely piecey. I will probably be using a glitter glue when I pick up that shade. It's also not a shade that super excites me, so I don't know that I'll be wearing it too much, but the combination of the shades in here are pretty. When I picked up this palette, I was definitely eyeing the shimmers more than the mattes. At this particular moment, I definitely think the mattes are exciting, and these 3 or 4 shimmers are the most exciting to me right now, so I will definitely keep you posted, keep playing with these. Okay, I did just wash off my arm, and I have a teeny little bit of staining from the shade Blossom, which was the first deeper purple matte or shimmer shade, and the shade Time Machine here, which is odd. I don't normally expect like a champagne-y shade to leave a stain, but it is what it is. I don't think that the stains are going to impact our next set of swatches. Okay, let's swatch the Sunset Symphony palette, and we're just going to do this in the same way that we did the last swatches. So I'm going to start with Seashore, Wave, and Skyline. Wave is maybe a little bit chunky, but not as chunky as Time Machine was in Violet Crazy. I did build up our matte Seashore just a little bit. Ooh, those are so pretty though. Those are so pretty. Okay, next 3, we have Breeze, Parasol, and Mojito. And again, Mojito is just slightly chunky, but not so chunky that it can't be smoothed out. Okay, I think Mojito is kind of an iridescent, and we know how I feel about iridescent blue-green shades. So pretty. Our next 3 are Halo, Surfboard, and Carnival. Here's our color story so far. The shade Halo is super shifty, and it's a little bit piecey, but I think it's still easier to work with than Time Machine and Violet Crazy. Again, all just initial first impressions. Next, let's do Afterglow, Golden Hour, and Symphony. Okay, here we are. Here's the last bit of swatches for the Sunset Symphony palette. I definitely think that the shimmers in this palette, kind of like I previously said, are really going to allow us to jump across color categories. So like this shade has kind of a pink base to it, orange pink, hot pink base to it, with some like orange and green shimmers and flips to it, so we'll be able to go towards pink and towards orange, and then there's green, so we could even try mixing the yellow and blue to get a little green. The shade down here has a very blue aqua base with an orange flip and almost a pink, yeah, there's a pink flip in there too, so you could really pair that with, you know, your blue matte as well as dipping into the orange and the pink matte. So I think that this palette will be a lot of fun. The first half of the shimmers in the Violet Crazy palette were very smooth. There were a couple chunky-er, the one very chunky Time Machine. The shimmers in this palette so far feel a little bit more consistent. They all have that, like, you touch them and they can smooth out, but you can feel the pieciness under them, so it's not a bad thing. And the impact is great. Like, they look like they smooth out really well, and they're going to be sparkly and a lot of fun to play with. So I will continue playing with them, and I will see how they last on the eyes throughout the day, if there's any impact, any effect because of the texture of the shimmer. So thanks for joining me, walking through, talking about, looking at all of my newest eyeshadow palettes. The months of June and July for me were too many purchases. So I know that for a lot of people, moving into fall time and especially Halloween time tend to have a lot of indie eyeshadow palette purchases, which is total blast, total love. And I'm not saying I won't purchase then, but I definitely find myself more drawn to summer and vibrant colors, especially in the summertime. And so I fell into that this year and picked up several new palettes in the last few months. Of course, I have other palettes that I've talked about on my channel and will continue to use and love and play with. We've got Ensley Rain Whispering Woods, which came out this summer. We've got Titanium Fox's Hidden Piece palette, which came out maybe in the spring, early summer, that I've been playing with. I've got several other loves from previous years in my collection, so please let me know what kind of palettes, color stories have been drawing your attention, as well as letting me know what kind of content you'd like to see with what I've got here or anything else that I've mentioned or have in my collection. I love chatting with you in the comments. I thank you so much for being here for today's video. If you liked the video, please give the video a like, and if you are new to my channel, I'd love it if you'd consider becoming a subscriber. Thanks once again for being here, and I hope to see you in the next one.